The morning sky over New York City changed forever at exactly 9:47 a.m. Eastern Time. What had been a clear blue September day suddenly turned dark as massive shadows fell across the earth. People walking to work stopped in the middle of sidewalks and looked up. Cars pulled over as drivers stared through their windshields in disbelief. Above them, stretching from horizon to horizon, hung ships unlike anything humanity had ever seen. They were beautiful and terrible at the same time. The vessels looked like they were made of crystal and metal, catching the sunlight and throwing it back in rainbow colors. Each ship was the size of a city block, and there were hundreds of them floating silently in the atmosphere. Maria Santos was reading the morning news when her producer started shouting from across the newsroom. She looked at the monitors showing feeds from around the world: London, Tokyo, Moscow, Los Angeles. Every major city on Earth was experiencing the same thing. The alien fleet had positioned itself over every populated area on the planet. "We're going live in 30 seconds, her producer yelled. Maria straightened her jacket and tried to calm her racing heart. She had reported on wars and disasters, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. "Good morning, I'm Maria Santos with breaking news that will change everything we know about our place in the universe. Alien spacecraft have appeared over major cities worldwide. We're getting reports from every continent." Meanwhile, in the White House Situation Room, President Jake Morrison stared at screens showing the same impossible sight. General Lisa Brooks stood beside him, her face pale but determined. She had commanded troops in 3 different wars, but those had been against human enemies. "How many ships are we looking at?" Morrison asked. "Preliminary count shows over 3,000 vessels." Admiral Pete Collins answered from his position at the communications console. They appeared simultaneously across the globe. "No warning, no advanced detection. Our satellite network didn't see them coming." "What about our space fleet?" Morrison asked. Collins looked uncomfortable. "We have 212 active vessels. Most are patrol ships or cargo haulers. Maybe 30 could be considered real warships." The numbers hit Morrison like a physical blow. Humanity's entire space presence was barely 1/10 the size of whatever force now hung over their heads. Dr. Helen Carter rushed into the room carrying a tablet. She was Earth's leading expert on theoretical alien contact, though she had never expected to use her knowledge in a real situation. "Mr. President, they're broadcasting on every frequency," she said breathlessly. "Radio, television, internet, even emergency channels. The message is the same in every language on Earth." "Show me," Morrison ordered. The main screen flickered and then displayed the image of a creature that made everyone in the room step backward. It stood nearly 8 feet tall with pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer like water. Its eyes were large and completely black, and when it spoke, its voice carried the weight of absolute authority. "I am High Admiral Vexter of the Zephyrian Empire. We have come to your world to deliver a simple message. Your species has reached the point where it must choose its future. You will surrender unconditionally to the Empire within 72 hours, or your planet will be cleansed of all life." The alien continued speaking with the calm tone of someone reading a grocery list. "Do not mistake this for a negotiation. We have observed your primitive technology and military capabilities. Resistance is not only futile, but will result in unnecessary suffering. You have 3 Earth days to contact your leaders and arrange the transfer of authority. This is the only communication you will receive." The message ended, but the image of the alien commander remained burned into everyone's memory. 3 days, Morrison said quietly. "They're giving us 3 days to surrender our entire civilization." General Brooks found her voice first. "Sir, we need to mobilize every military unit on Earth. If we coordinate a global response, ... with what?" Admiral Collins interrupted. "You saw the numbers. They have 15 ships for every one of ours. And that's assuming our weapons can even damage their hulls. In Montana, farmer Bill Jackson stood in his wheat field holding an old hunting rifle. The alien ships cast shadows across his land that had been in his family for 4 generations. His grandfather had fought in World War II, his father in Vietnam. Now it was his turn to face an enemy, but this one came from the stars. His wife Kate came out of the house carrying their infant son. "What are we going to do, Bill?" "Same thing Americans have always done," he said, though his voice shook. "We fight for what's ours." Back in the Situation Room, Dr. Carter was studying the alien broadcast with intense focus. Something about the way the Admiral had spoken bothered her, but she couldn't put her finger on it. "Mr. President," she said slowly, "I think there's something odd about their message." "Everything about this is odd, Helen," Morrison replied. "No, I mean specifically odd. They mentioned observing our primitive technology and military capabilities. That suggests they've been watching us for some time. But if they know so much about us, why give us 3 days? Why not just attack immediately?" General Brooks nodded. "She's right. In military terms, surprise is everything. They had complete surprise. Why waste it by giving us time to prepare?" Admiral Collins looked up from his communications panel. "Maybe they want to avoid a fight? Perhaps their civilization values life, and they're hoping we'll see reason. Or maybe they're testing us," Dr. Carter said quietly. "Maybe this is how they determine which species are worth keeping alive and which ones need to be eliminated." The room fell silent as everyone considered the implications. Morrison walked to the window and looked up at the alien ships hanging over Washington. They were so large that they blocked out portions of the sky. He could see similar vessels in the distance over other cities along the East Coast. "Get me a secure line to every world leader," he ordered. "We need to convene an emergency session of the Global Defense Council. And I want our best military minds working on options. I don't care how impossible the odds look." "Sir," Collins said hesitantly, "there is one thing. We've been trying to contact our deep space monitoring stations for status reports. Most have responded normally, but a few are showing some unusual activity." "What kind of activity?" "Power. Fluctuations mainly. Like they're running systems we don't normally use. Could be nothing, but the pattern is odd." Dr. Carter looked up from her tablet. "Which stations specifically?" Collins checked his notes. "Europa Base, Titan Station, and several of the asteroid mining facilities. Also the research station at Pluto, but that one's been quiet for weeks anyway." "That is odd," Carter agreed. "Those facilities don't usually coordinate activities." Morrison felt a strange sensation, like a memory trying to surface. There was something familiar about those locations, something he should remember. But with the weight of humanity's survival pressing down on him, he pushed the thought aside. "Focus on the immediate threat," he said. "We have less than 72 hours to figure out how to respond to the most powerful military force our species has ever encountered." Outside, in cities around the world, people looked up at the alien ships and wondered if they were seeing humanity's last free sunset. Some prayed, some panicked, and some simply went about their daily lives because the alternative was too terrible to accept. None of them knew that in the dark spaces between planets, other ships were already moving. Ships that had been waiting in silence for decades, waiting for exactly this moment. Ships that would soon remind the galaxy why it was dangerous to underestimate the human race. 48 hours remained when President Morrison made the decision that would change everything. He sat alone in the Oval Office at 3 a.m, staring at a red phone that hadn't been used in over 20 years. The alien ships still hung over Washington like dark clouds, their crystalline hulls catching the city lights below. Morrison picked up the phone and dialed a number he had memorized but never expected to use. After 3 rings, a voice answered. "Nightfall Command. This is Eagle 1. Morrison said, using his code name. Authorization Tango 77 Alpha. The garden is ready for harvest. There was a pause. Confirmed, Eagle 1. Initiating harvest protocol. All assets will be active within 6 hours. Morrison hung up and leaned back in his chair. He thought about his predecessor who had briefed him on this moment, and the president before that who had started it all. For 50 years, every American president had carried this secret. Now it was time to see if their long gamble would pay off. On Europa, one of Jupiter's moons, Captain Danny Rodriguez was finishing his morning coffee when the communication came through. To anyone watching, he looked like a simple mining station commander reviewing daily operations reports. The facility around him appeared to be exactly what its public records claimed: a water extraction plant supplying the outer colonies. But when Rodriguez entered his private quarters and pressed his hand to a hidden scanner, everything changed. The wall slid away to reveal a command center that belonged on a military vessel, not a mining station. Screens came to life showing star charts, tactical displays, and ship status reports. "Computer, begin Nightfall activation sequence," Rodriguez said calmly. "Acknowledged. Beginning power up of stealth fleet. Estimated time to full operational status, 4 hours and 27 minutes. 3 billion miles away on Titan, Commander." Beth Williams received the same coded message. She stood on an observation deck that tourists sometimes visited, looking out at Saturn's rings through a reinforced window. But the tourist facility was just the top level. Below ground, Titan Station extended down for nearly a mile. Williams took an elevator that required both her handprint and retinal scan to operate. As she descended through security levels that officially didn't exist, she passed laboratories, where scientists had spent decades working on projects with no public record. When she reached the bottom level, she found herself in a massive underground hangar. The ships waiting there didn't appear on any official fleet registry. They were sleek and dark, designed for stealth and speed. Each one was twice the size of Earth's largest military vessels, and there were dozens of them arranged in perfect rows. "All crews to stations," Williams announced over the facilities. "Hidden communication system. This is not a drill. Nightfall protocol is now active." In the asteroid belt, engineer Carl Thompson was running what appeared to be a routine mining operation on a large asteroid designated as Mining Station 7, robotic. Ships came and went regularly, hauling processed ore to various colonies. But the ore extraction was only a cover story. Thompson stood in a control room buried deep inside the asteroid and watched as massive hangar doors opened in what looked like solid rock. The asteroid had been hollowed out over 30 years of careful work, creating a hidden base larger than most space stations. Ships began emerging from the concealed hangars. These weren't the mining vessels that everyone expected to see. They were warships painted in a black that seemed to absorb light itself. Each ship bristled with weapons that no human military was supposed to possess. "Base 7 to all units." Thompson transmitted on a frequency that didn't officially exist. "Begin Phase 1 deployment. Maintain stealth protocols until otherwise ordered." Admiral Susan Blake watched it all from her command ship hidden in the Kuiper Belt, far beyond Pluto. Her vessel looked like any other deep space research station from the outside, but it was actually the nerve center of humanity's greatest secret. For 25 years, she had commanded a fleet that the public didn't know existed. Blake had been a young lieutenant when the first crashed alien ship was discovered in Siberia in 1973. She had been part of the team that secretly studied the wreckage, learning technologies that were centuries ahead of human science. More importantly, they had learned that humanity was not alone in the galaxy, and that other species might not be friendly. "Admiral," her communications officer reported, "all Black Fleet elements are responding. We have confirmation from Europa Squadron, Titan Heavy Division, Belt Defense Force, and Outer Rim Patrol. Total active vessels, 807. Blake nodded. The numbers were impressive, but she wondered if they would be enough. The Zephyrian Empire had brought 3,000 ships to Earth, even with superior technology. The odds were not in humanity's favor. "What's the status on our special weapons?" she asked. "Quantum disruption cannons are fully charged on all vessels. Stealth systems are operating at maximum efficiency. The aliens shouldn't be able to detect us until we choose to reveal ourselves." Back on Earth, Dr. Helen Carter was still studying the alien broadcasts when something clicked in her mind. She had been bothered by the Admiral's words about observing human technology, but now she realized what was wrong. She ran to the Situation Room where President Morrison was meeting with military leaders from around the world. General Brooks looked exhausted after 2 days of impossible planning. Admiral Collins was coordinating with space forces that everyone knew were insufficient for the task ahead. "Mr. President," Carter said breathlessly, "I think I know why they gave us 3 days." Morrison looked up from a tactical display showing Earth's pathetic defenses. "I'm listening. They're not just observing our public military capabilities. They think they know everything about us. But what if they don't? What if there are things about human military strength that they haven't seen?" General Brooks frowned. "Helen, we've been over this. Our space fleet is public record. Every ship, every weapon, every base. There's nothing hidden." "Are you sure about that?" Morrison asked quietly. Something in the president's tone made everyone in the room stop what they were doing. Collins slowly turned from his communications console. Brooks set down the report she had been reading. "Sir," Brooks said carefully. Morrison walked to the window and looked up at the alien ships. "What would you say if I told you that those ships up there made the same mistake that many of Earth's enemies have made throughout history?" "What mistake?" Carter asked. "They assumed that what they could see was all there was to see." At that moment, Collins's communication console began showing readings that shouldn't have been possible. Deep space sensors were detecting gravitational anomalies throughout the solar system. Ships were moving at high speed toward Earth, but they weren't showing up on normal detection systems. "Mr. President," Collins said slowly, "I'm getting reports from our deep space monitoring network. There are massive fleet movements in progress, but the signatures they're human." "That's impossible," Brooks said. "We know the location of every human ship in the solar system, do we?" Morrison asked. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Carter was the first to speak. "The mining stations, the research facilities, the power fluctuations Collins mentioned. They weren't random, were they?" Morrison smiled for the first time since the aliens had arrived. "Doctor, what would you say if I told you that the crashed ship in Siberia in 1973 wasn't really an accident? I'd say that humanity just became a lot more dangerous than our visitors realized." Outside, the alien ships continued their silent watch over Earth's cities. High Admiral Vexter was confident that the primitive humans would see reason and surrender before the deadline. His intelligence reports showed a species barely capable of interplanetary travel. He had no idea that humanity's real fleet was already moving through the darkness between worlds, preparing to teach the Zephyrian Empire a lesson about underestimating Earth's children. 6 hours remained when President Morrison walked into the United Nations building in New York City. Above him, the alien ships cast their shadows over the city like storm clouds that refused to move. Every news camera on Earth was pointed at him as he made his way to the podium where he would deliver humanity's answer to the Zephyrian Empire. The UN Assembly Hall was packed with representatives from every nation on Earth. Many had tears in their eyes. They believed they were witnessing the end of human independence. Morrison looked out at their faces and felt the weight of his secret knowledge. These good people thought they were about to surrender to save their children's lives. They had no idea that their children were about to inherit the stars. "Citizens of Earth," Morrison began, his voice carrying to every television, radio, and internet connection on the planet. 72 hours ago, representatives of the Zephyrian Empire appeared in our skies and demanded our surrender. They gave us 3 days to decide the fate of our entire species. High Admiral Vexter watched the broadcast from his command ship hovering over Manhattan. The human leader looked calm, which surprised him. Most species begged for mercy at this point. Some offered tribute or tried to negotiate. Very few maintained their dignity in the face of inevitable defeat. I stand before you today to deliver humanity's response to this ultimatum, Morrison continued. We have considered their demand carefully. We have weighed our options. We have counted the cost of resistance. In living rooms and cafes around the world, people held their breath. Parents pulled their children closer. Soldiers checked their weapons one more time, knowing they were useless against alien technology. The Zephyrian Empire believes that superior numbers and advanced technology make right. They think that because they have more ships and bigger guns, we should bow down and accept their rule. Morrison paused and looked directly into the camera that would carry his words to the alien fleet. They are mistaken. Vexter straightened in his command chair. This was not the response he had expected. We reject your demand, Morrison said, his voice growing stronger. Earth bows to no empire. Humanity kneels to no alien master. We choose to stand and fight, whatever the cost. The UN Assembly erupted in applause, but Morrison wasn't finished. You came to our world believing us to be weak and defenseless. You saw our small fleet and thought us helpless. You made the same mistake that others have made throughout human history. You confused restraint with weakness. Aboard the Zephyrian command ship, tactical officers began reporting strange readings on their sensors. Energy signatures were appearing at the edge of their detection range, but the computers couldn't identify what was causing them. Admiral, his second-in-command, reported, "We're detecting unusual gravitational disturbances throughout the star system." Should we investigate? Vexter waved a dismissive hand. Probably their primitive mining equipment. Focus on the planet. Once we begin the bombardment, any resistance will end quickly. But the readings continued to multiply. What had started as a few scattered contacts was becoming a flood of unknown signatures, moving at high speed toward Earth. On Luna, Lieutenant Kelly Foster was monitoring the deep space sensor network when her screens went crazy. Contacts were appearing everywhere, moving in formation patterns that suggested military organization. But the energy signatures were human. "Command, this is Luna Base," she transmitted to Earth. "I'm reading massive fleet movements throughout the system. Configuration is definitely human, but the number of vessels is impossible." Admiral Collins received the transmission in the White House Situation Room. He stared at his displays in amazement as hundreds of new contacts appeared on his screens. "Mr. President," he said quietly, "our deep space sensors are showing fleet formations approaching from the outer system. The computer is identifying them as human vessels, but that can't be right. We don't have that many ships." General Brooks looked over his shoulder at the display. "How many are we talking about?" "Current count is over 800 vessels and climbing." Dr. Carter felt her heart racing. The pieces were finally coming together. The mining stations, the research facilities. They weren't just mining and research, were they? Morrison finished his speech to the world and walked off the stage. As he left the UN building, he looked up at the alien ships hanging over New York. In a few hours, those ships would learn what humanity was really capable of. High Admiral Vexter was growing concerned. His sensor operators were reporting more contacts every minute, all moving toward Earth from different directions. The formation patterns were too organized to be civilian traffic. "Communications," he ordered. "Send a message to the human leadership. Tell them they have 1 hour to reconsider their decision. After that, we begin bombardment." But even as he spoke, his tactical officers were reporting impossible readings. The approaching contacts were using some kind of stealth technology that made them difficult to track. Whenever his sensors got a clear lock, the signals would fade and reappear somewhere else. Captain Danny Rodriguez was 30 minutes out from Earth when he received the order to decloak. His ship, the Phantom's Edge, had been running silent for the entire journey from Europa. Now it was time to announce their presence. "All Europa Squadron vessels," he transmitted, "prepare to drop stealth on my mark. Let's show these aliens what human engineering can do." The quantum stealth generators that had kept his ships invisible shut down simultaneously. Suddenly, 50 vessels appeared on every sensor in the solar system. They were sleek and deadly, painted in black that seemed to absorb starlight. Their weapon systems were already charged and ready. Commander Beth Williams led the Titan Heavy Division out of Saturn's shadow. Her ships were larger than Rodriguez's, built for maximum firepower rather than speed. When they dropped their stealth fields, another 100 vessels materialized in space. "This is Titan Command to all friendly forces," she broadcast. "Heavy Division is in position and ready for engagement." Engineer Carl Thompson watched from his command center in the asteroid belt as ship after ship emerged from hidden bases throughout the solar system. The Belt Defense Force alone numbered over 200 vessels, all armed with weapons reverse-engineered from alien technology. "All units, this is Belt Command," he transmitted. "Defensive perimeter is established. No hostile vessel leaves this system alive." Admiral Susan Blake arrived last, her command fleet dropping out of quantum stealth just outside Earth's orbit. Her flagship, the Nightfall, was a vessel that had been built in absolute secrecy over 20 years. It was larger than anything in the public human fleet and carried enough firepower to level a small moon. "This is Admiral Blake to all Black Fleet elements," she transmitted on a frequency the aliens couldn't intercept. "Operation Nightfall is now active. Humanity's true strength stands revealed." High Admiral Vexter stared at his tactical displays in growing horror. In the space of minutes, his overwhelming numerical advantage had vanished. The humans hadn't just hidden a few ships. They had concealed an entire fleet that matched his own forces in size and appeared to exceed them in technology. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Our intelligence reports showed a primitive species with barely 200 vessels." His intelligence officer was frantically checking his data. "Sir, our observations were accurate. The public human fleet consists of exactly what we reported, these ships. They don't appear in any database. It's as if they were built in complete secrecy." "That's exactly what happened." Blake transmitted on an open channel that reached every ship in both fleets. "For 50 years, humanity has been preparing for this day. You came here thinking you faced a defenseless world. You were wrong. The Black Fleet took formation around Earth, their dark hulls gleaming with menace. 800 human warships faced 3,000 alien vessels in the space above humanity's homeworld. The real battle was about to begin." The first shot of the war came from High Admiral Vexter himself. Faced with a human fleet he had never expected to exist, he made the decision that would doom his empire's ambitions. His command ship's main plasma cannon charged with deadly energy and fired directly at Admiral Blake's flagship. The beam of superheated matter streaked across space toward the Nightfall. Every human watching from Earth held their breath. This would be the test. Could their secret weapons stand against alien technology that had conquered half the galaxy? The plasma beam struck the Nightfall's shields and simply vanished. The human ship didn't even slow down. "Impossible," Vexter whispered, staring at his tactical display. His most powerful weapon had done nothing to the human vessel. "Admiral." Blake's voice came over the communication channel, calm and deadly. "Your turn is over. Now it's ours." The Nightfall's quantum disruption cannons fired in response. The beams were invisible to normal sensors, but their effect was devastating. They struck the crystalline hull of Vexter's command ship and tore through it like it was made of paper. Atmosphere rushed out of the wounds in the alien vessel as emergency systems tried to seal the breaches. That single exchange told both fleets everything they needed to know. Human shields could stop Zephyrian weapons. Zephyrian armor could not stop human weapons. All Black Fleet vessels, Blake commanded, engage at will, show them what Earth's children can do. Captain Rodriguez led the Europa squadron in the opening assault. His 50 ships moved like wolves attacking a herd, striking fast and hard at the Zephyrian rear formations. The alien ships were beautiful to look at, with their crystal hulls catching starlight, but beauty meant nothing in battle. Rodriguez's ship, the Phantom's Edge, targeted a Zephyrian destroyer twice its size. The quantum disruption cannons fired once, and the alien ship simply came apart. Its crystalline structure couldn't handle the molecular disruption caused by human weapons. Europa 1 to all squadrons, Rodriguez transmitted. Their armor is useless against our guns. Press the attack. Commander Williams brought the Titan Heavy Division against the Zephyrian command formation. Her ships were built for maximum firepower, carrying weapons that could crack asteroids in half. When they opened fire on the alien capital ships, the results were spectacular. The heavy quantum cannons punched through Zephyrian shields like they weren't there. Alien vessels that had terrorized dozens of worlds found themselves helpless against human technology. One by one, the mighty ships of the Empire began to die in the cold vacuum of space. Titan Command to Fleet Admiral, Williams reported, "We're cutting through their main battle line. These ships can't take our fire." Engineer Thompson coordinated the Belt Defense Force from his asteroid command center. His ships were smaller than the heavy units, but they were fast and deadly. They swarmed around the larger Zephyrian vessels like angry hornets, firing precisely targeted shots that disabled engines and weapon systems. "Belt command to all units," Thompson ordered. "Target their propulsion first. Dead ships can't run away to warn their empire." High Admiral Vexter watched his fleet die around him and felt something he had never experienced before: fear. In 30 years of conquest, he had never faced an enemy that could match Zephyrian technology. These humans were not just matching it, they were exceeding it. How do they have such weapons? He demanded of his science officer. "Unknown, Admiral. Our intelligence indicated they were centuries behind us in development. These quantum weapons are more advanced than anything in our arsenal." Vexter realized the truth too late. "They've been studying us, that ship that crashed on their world 50 years ago. They've been learning our technology and improving on it." Dr. Carter watched the battle from Earth's surface, tracking the engagement through the deep space sensor network. What she saw amazed her. The human ships weren't just winning. They were dominating completely. "Mr. President," she said to Morrison, who stood beside her watching the tactical displays, "they're not fighting like they've never seen combat before." "These crews know exactly what they're doing," Morrison nodded. "They've been training for this for decades. Every pilot, every gunner, every engineer. They've been preparing for the day when humanity would have to defend itself against a superior alien force." General Brooks was studying the battle patterns with professional interest. "Sir, our ships are using tactics I've never seen before. They're not fighting like a space navy. They're fighting like something else entirely." "Like what?" Carter asked. "Like predators," she was right. The Black Fleet moved through space with deadly purpose, exploiting every weakness in the Zephyrian formations. When alien ships tried to retreat, human vessels were already there waiting for them. When they tried to regroup, quantum weapons tore their formations apart. Captain Amy Turner led a squadron of human fighters in attack runs against the Zephyrian escort vessels. Her ships were tiny compared to the alien destroyers, but they were faster and more maneuverable than anything the Empire had ever built. "Lightning Squadron," she transmitted to her pilots. Remember your training. Hit fast, hit hard, and don't give them time to lock onto you." The human fighters darted between the larger ships like deadly insects, their small quantum cannons punching holes through alien armor. The Zephyrian gunners couldn't track targets that moved so unpredictably. Turner's fighter dove under a Zephyrian cruiser and fired a full spread of quantum torpedoes into its belly. The alien ship convulsed as internal explosions tore it apart from the inside. "That's another one down," she reported cheerfully. "These aliens really don't know how to fight small targets." Admiral Blake coordinated the entire battle from the Nightfall's command center. 50 years of planning were paying off perfectly. Every simulation, every training exercise, every secret weapon test had prepared the Black Fleet for exactly this moment. "Admiral," her tactical officer reported, "we're detecting attempts by enemy vessels to break off and retreat." "Negative." Blake responded immediately. "No alien ship leaves this system. We can't let them report back to their empire about our true capabilities." Thompson's Belt Defense Force had positioned ships at every possible escape route. When Zephyrian vessels tried to run, they found quantum mines waiting for them. The human weapons tore through their hulls before they could even signal for help. "Hi." Admiral Vexter made one last desperate attempt to save his fleet. He ordered all remaining ships to concentrate their fire on a single human vessel, hoping to prove that the aliens could still fight back. 200 Zephyrian ships focused their plasma cannons on Rodriguez's flagship. The combined firepower was enough to sterilize a planet's surface. The beams converged on the Phantom's edge in a display of raw, destructive power. The human ship's shields flared brilliantly as they absorbed the energy, but they held. Not only did they hold, but the ship's quantum generators converted the incoming plasma into additional power for its own weapons. "Thank you for the energy boost," Rodriguez transmitted to the alien fleet. Then he fired his main guns. The return volley from the Phantom's edge struck the center of the Zephyrian formation and tore through ship after ship. The quantum disruption effect spread from vessel to vessel, causing a chain reaction that destroyed dozens of alien warships in seconds. That was the moment when Vexter realized the battle was lost. His mighty fleet, which had conquered worlds across 3 star systems, was being systematically destroyed by humans he had thought were primitives. "All ships," he transmitted on the emergency frequency, "attempt to withdraw. We must warn the Empire," but it was too late. The Black Fleet had them surrounded, and Admiral Blake had no intention of letting any of them escape alive. The battle ended not with a bang but with silence. In the space above Earth, where 3,000 Zephyrian warships had once darkened the sky, only debris and the occasional flash of an explosion remained. The mighty fleet that had conquered dozens of worlds was nothing more than scattered wreckage drifting in the void. Admiral Blake stood on the bridge of the Nightfall, watching the final alien vessel surrender. High Admiral Vexter's command ship hung motionless in space, its engines destroyed and its weapons offline. Of the entire Zephyrian fleet, fewer than 50 ships remained intact, and all of them had raised the universal signal of surrender. "Fleet." "Admiral," her communications officer reported, "we're receiving a transmission from the enemy flagship." "Put it through," Blake ordered. The image of High Admiral Vexter appeared on the main screen. The proud alien commander who had demanded Earth's surrender now looked broken and defeated. His crystalline ship was venting atmosphere from dozens of hull breaches, and emergency lighting cast strange shadows across his pale blue features. "I request permission to speak with your leadership," Vexter said, his voice barely above. "Whisper. You're speaking to her," Blake replied coldly. "I am Fleet Admiral Susan Blake, commander of Earth's Black Fleet. You came to my world demanding surrender. Now you're the one who needs to surrender." President Morrison's voice joined the conversation from Earth. "Admiral Vexter, this is President Morrison of Earth. You offered us terms 72 hours ago. Now I'm offering terms to you." The alien commander straightened slightly. trying to maintain some dignity in defeat. "What terms do you propose?" "Simple ones," Morrison replied. "You will return to your empire immediately. You will tell them exactly what happened here. You will make it clear that Earth is not a target for conquest. Any future attempts to threaten our world will be met with the same response you've received today." Vexter looked around at the wreckage of his once mighty fleet. "They will not believe me. No one will believe that a species we thought primitive could possess such advanced technology." "Then you'll have to convince them," Blake said. "Show them the recordings of this battle. Show them what happened to your ships when they faced human weapons. Make them understand that attacking Earth is not just dangerous, it's suicide." Dr. Carter watched the exchange from the White House Situation Room. She had been studying alien psychology for years, but seeing a defeated Empire commander was something new. The arrogance and certainty that had marked Vexter's first message were completely gone. "Mr. President," she said quietly, "I think we need to be very careful about how we handle this. If the Zephyrian Empire thinks Earth is too dangerous to ignore, they might send an even larger fleet." Morrison considered her words. "Admiral Blake, what's your assessment of their remaining military capability?" Blake consulted her tactical displays. "Based on the intelligence we gathered from their ships, the Zephyrian Empire has approximately 15,000 vessels scattered across 3 star systems. This fleet represented about 20% of their total military strength. And if they combined their entire fleet and attacked us again, they'd lose," Blake said simply. "Our technology is superior in every way. More ships just means more targets for our weapons." Captain Rodriguez was leading salvage operations among the alien wreckage when he made an interesting discovery. His boarding teams had found the Zephyrian databanks mostly intact, containing detailed information about the Empire's military structure and conquered territories. "Admiral," he transmitted to Blake, "you need to see this intelligence data. According to their records, the Zephyrian Empire controls 47 different worlds. But they didn't conquer most of them through military force." "Explain," Blake ordered. "They used the same tactic they tried on us. Show up with overwhelming force, demand surrender, and most species just gave up without a fight. Only 3 worlds actually fought back, and the Empire crushed them easily." Blake understood immediately. They're bullies. They've been picking on species that couldn't defend themselves. Commander Williams was conducting her own investigation of the alien technology when she found something even more interesting. The Zephyrian weapons and shields were advanced, but they weren't original designs. "Admiral," she reported, "their technology appears to be copied from multiple sources. I'm seeing design elements from at least 6 different engineering traditions. I think they've been stealing technology from the species they've conquered." Blake smiled grimly. "So they're not just bullies. They're thieves." The implications were staggering. The Zephyrian Empire had built its power by stealing the achievements of other civilizations. They had never faced an opponent that was technologically superior because they had carefully chosen weak targets. Engineer Thompson had been analyzing the quantum signatures of the alien ships when he discovered the most important piece of information yet. The Zephyrian fleet hadn't come directly from their home territory. They had made stops at 3 different star systems on their way to Earth. "Admiral Blake," he transmitted excitedly, "I've been tracking their quantum wake signatures. This fleet visited the Kepler system, the Wolf system, and the Proxima system before arriving here. All 3 systems have inhabited worlds according to our astronomical surveys. You think they were planning to conquer those worlds too?" "Not planning. I think they already did. The quantum signatures suggest they were there for several weeks in each system, long enough to demand surrender and establish occupation forces." Blake felt a cold anger building in her chest. While Earth had been preparing its defenses, the Zephyrian Empire had been enslaving other worlds. 3 more civilizations had fallen to alien tyranny while humanity built its secret fleet. "Get me a direct channel to Admiral Vector," she ordered. Alien Commander appeared on her screen again, looking even more defeated than before. "Admiral," Blake said, "our analysis of your fleet's travel records shows that you conquered 3 worlds on your way to Earth. Is that correct?" Vector hesitated, then nodded. "The Kepler Colony, the Wolf Confederation, and the Proxima Republic. All surrendered without significant resistance. And you left occupation forces on those worlds? Standard procedure. A small fleet to maintain order and collect tribute." Blake exchanged glances with her officers. The Zephyrian Empire hadn't just threatened Earth. They had actively enslaved other species while preparing for their assault on humanity. "Admiral Vector," Blake said formally, "I'm adding additional terms to your surrender. You will provide us with the complete locations and compositions of your occupation forces. Earth's fleet will be visiting those systems to liberate the worlds you've conquered." "You cannot," Vector protested. "Those worlds are now part of the Empire. You have no authority there." "We have all the authority we need," Blake replied, gesturing to the wreckage of his fleet floating around them. "The authority of superior firepower." President Morrison's voice joined the conversation again. "Admiral Vector, Earth has a long tradition of fighting against oppression and tyranny. We didn't develop our military capabilities just to defend ourselves. We built them to protect freedom wherever it's threatened." The alien commander stared at Morrison through the screen. "You would go to war with the entire Zephyrian Empire to free worlds you've never seen?" "We would," Morrison said simply, "because that's what humans do. We fight for those who can't fight for themselves." Blake began issuing orders to her fleet commanders. "Captain Rodriguez, take Europa Squadron to the Kepler system. Commander Williams, Titan Division will handle the Wolf system. Engineer Thompson, coordinate with Belt Defense to secure the Proxima system. Any alien occupation forces that resist will be destroyed." Within hours, the Black Fleet was dispersing throughout local space on missions of liberation. The same ships that had defended Earth were now carrying freedom to other worlds. "Hi." Admiral Vector watched the human vessels disappear into quantum space and realized that his empire had made a terrible mistake. They hadn't just attacked a single world. They had awakened something that would reshape the entire galaxy. Earth was no longer hiding in the shadows. Humanity had revealed itself as the dominant military power in this region of space, and they intended to use that power to spread freedom rather than conquest. The age of the Zephyrian Empire was over. The age of humanity had begun.